Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Oh boy, welcome everybody. Boy, do we have a great announcement for all of you. Joining me here today is someone you know. But as I said before, things are a shift. We're changing. Things are coming in, they're coming out. But for the most part, we are here and we are thinking about how do we want to be here? And so my very special guest today, Ellen Stewart, is joining me here today because something has opened up. And this is what I love about what I do and why I do it. I work with some of the most incredible people who are so committed to what they believe and what they do and how to help other people. And so this today is for you all to get a sneak peek on what is coming. Women who push for more. Today, many of you know who Ellen is. You know about her work in the recovery industry and service. But more importantly, you know about her commitment and her passion. Today is something new. It's something fresh. It's the expansion, like many of us are doing, from whatever we're doing to expand more. Whether you're home and you're in home, working from home, and your children are learning from home, or your grandchildren, it doesn't matter. There's something that has popped us all open here. You can call it what you want, but what's undeniable is all of us are being asked to stretch and change. Ellen, great to have you.
It's always good to be with you and to be with all of the Transformation Talk Radio listeners. As you said, Dr. Pat, everybody knows me as the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, and also with my show Recovery Recharge and my show weekly, Everybody Needs a Little Push. I mentioned this idea to you a couple of weeks ago because I really had an epiphany. Just like you said, our world is changing. The world that we knew before the beginning of 2020 is so much different. And now we are all striving for more. And everything that we see in the news today, every single thing that we do talks about powerful, strong women who are pushing for more in every aspect of their lives. And every single woman that I interview had a special, inspiring, and unique story to tell. And I knew this would be perfect for Transformation Talk Radio.
Yeah, it is perfect, Ellen. And, I did a couple of shows last week. We have, a new producer starting with us. So we love to do these live shows at the spur of the moment to sort of give training. And so I was talking about this, and I was talking a bit about my own evolution. And I was talking a bit about the name that Kamala Harris was called. Now, let me just tell you this. This is not a political statement from me. This is a statement about women. Because when you refer to women as nasty, and David put this really cool little video together, and I had to think about it, and I shared some stories from my background. Nasty would be an understatement for what some of us used to be called, but we don't quit. And isn't that what your show now, the new show, the new direction is about, talking about that? We seem to be able to push forward. Not always easy.
Yes, in a very good way. I had mentioned when I first started, and viewers that go to my website, Pushy Broad from the Bronx, see that I was always called a pushy broad because I needed to stand up for what I believed in. And because of that, women get a bad rep for that. When we are outspoken, we are termed outspoken. And a pushy broad is just that, a pushy broad with very seriously negative connotations, or what you would call nasty. But basically, a pushy broad is just somebody that has learned how to speak out. And we're seeing that more in our politics, in our women, people like Kamala Harris, people like Elizabeth Warren, people like Michelle Obama, and even people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And these are the people that we need to look up to in every aspect of our lives. And also people like Dr. Pat. We're going to talk about that today for sure.
Well, I mean, let's not leave out now 17-year-old Greta Thunberg. Let's not leave her out.
No, absolutely.
You know, I mean, I can't think of one name this Greta, Swedish activist, hasn't been called. And I think she's 17 now, right?
Yes.
And if you don't know who Greta is, you can Google her, right? But when you're that young and you've been called every name of the book, including Angry Greta, right? And you don't really care, there's something to be said, right? About who this kid is, who her parents are, but she is on track to perhaps be, now I say this next to Jane Goodall, but one of the pushiest broads, not from the Bronx. She is on track to be right up there.
Yes, she really is. And she has her youth behind her, which is a great thing. The whole idea of women who push for more is to be proud that we do it. These are the examples of women that will be on the show, and I have some great ones lined up. People from all walks of life, not only pushing for themselves in industry and in business and in politics, and people that are actively making a name for themselves, but everyday women, mothers that are pushing for their children, Black women that are pushing for their rights as individuals, individual women who get up every single day and want to do better on their jobs and earn more, or women that want to be better mothers or wives. All of these women pushing for more is what I am going to outline on my brand new show, thanks to Transformation.
Well, let's talk about who women are in the workforce for a minute, if we could. You know, we forget about the numbers.
We do. And now more than ever, 47% of US workers are women. That's an amazing thing, because when we grew up, moms didn't work. They really didn't work. They stayed home, took care of the kids. And now, not only are 47% of them women, but 75% of mothers with children under 18 participate in the labor force. 75% of women have to go out and work and then come home and be moms and take care of kids. These are the Wonder Womans of the world. These are the women that are coming home and definitely pushing for more. There's no question.
Yeah. And there is another interesting number that we're not talking about today, and perhaps we'll do another show. But we also have now in the workforce male population, men that are experiencing all of this. Maybe they're single dads, maybe they're in the same boat. And now we have a different layer of, what's the word? Empathy for what this journey is about. You know, we're talking about women today, but you and I both know that a large part of the support along the way was from the lessons learned by men, either through their moms or through their own situation. So when you put these numbers together, you have a force to be reckoned with. It's one thing to be a woman pushing. It's another thing to have somebody of the opposite sex look and say, dang, she's right. I get what she's talking about, right?
Exactly, because more and more men, especially gay men, are having children, so they're staying home, their roles are reversing. They're really understanding the things that women have taken on for a very long time. But there are so many other things too.
Yep.
I mean, how women participate in terms of businesses there, how many women executives there are, that there still has to be more to go, how many female veterans there are. About 3 out of 10 serve our country now as government workers. So there are many women that are really pushing through in greater numbers than ever before. And we can feel that now, especially now. Take a look and see what's on TV. Take a look at all of the women reporters, the female journalists, the females that are really, really getting involved. So the movement is now, the time is now, which is why Women Who Push for More was absolutely right for the times. We are right here, right now.
And that's part of what we're going to talk about, because one of the things that I had an experience with, and I think I shared this with you, and I think I shared this on air. I was talking about the ERA, and I didn't explain myself about what the ERA was, what it was when it was a thing, and is it something to come back? And so what I realized is we need to carry the message forward, because there is a generational gap on this topic. You know, the fact that we may or may not have equal rights as a woman, just to say that, people look at you sideways like you're making some story up. But isn't that part of what we're going to talk about today as well?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question. I decided that when I wanted to do this, I wanted to take a word that was really powerful, and that word was push. That is a really, really, really powerful word. And I wanted to give some meaning behind that, because the whole idea of push sounds like a negative, aggressive term. And I wanted to change those meanings. I wanted to change how we consider someone a woman who pushes for more, or a pushy broad. So I'd like everybody out there, every woman, to think of the word push, and instead of thinking something negative and derogatory, let's think of what push would actually stand for. So push, P, let's make that powerful. Let's look at how powerful women are today in every sense of the word, and how we can make ourselves more powerful. And you should stand for unafraid, because look at all of those women, Dr. Pat, that are protesting or getting out there and running for office, the highest office in the land. They are unabashed and unafraid. And I love that about pushy women. And then, of course, S, standing for self-aware, because people like you that have gone out and strove for greatness, just like people like Michelle Obama or Kamala Harris or any of those people, Elizabeth Warren, they know who they are, they know what they want, they know what they stand for. And then most of all of the women of our world, hardworking, the H for hardworking, powerful, unafraid, self-aware, hard-working women. So that's how I want people to associate that word, push.
Yeah. And you know what? Let's take a break, because when we come back, what does this mean? For those of you out there, have you ever had to push for something? What do we mean by push for something? What does that look like? What times in your life do you realize that maybe you had to push for a place on your women's/girls basketball team? What is it? When we come back, we're going to talk to Ellen about what she is looking at for push, women who push for more. And what is it about that takes dreaming to the next level? Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. And I'm so thrilled to be talking with all of you about what Ellen Stewart has got planned. You know, it's one of these things I was talking about earlier today, was that people are really opening up. They're opening up their hearts, opening up their minds, and they're opening up to taking action in ways they've never done before. Right now, Ellen Stewart's joining us to talk with us about what she has created, what is coming your way. And before we do that, Ellen, women who push for more, what are you creating so people can become engaged in that?
Right now, we are starting with a brand new show called Women Who Push for More. It'll be Wednesday nights on Transformation Talk Radio, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, where I am going to interview enterprising, self aware, and confident women who strive to achieve more in every aspect of their lives. And they've learned to never settle for anything less than their worth. And I'm really excited about that. And I want every woman out there to join the Pushy Broad Women Who Push for More community. I need you to go to my website, Pushy Broad from the Bronx. Join the special Facebook group. You don't need anything to join. Just click on the link and say, I'm a part of this. I want to be part of, because I can identify with women who push for more. So that's very important to me. I've got some really great guests, and I want to be able to continue this today and talk about, as my first guest of Women Who Push for More, one of the reasons why I asked Dr. Pat to be a part of this today was because I don't think there is a woman who really embodies what it means to push for more than our own host today of Transformation Talk Radio, our president and CEO, Dr. Pat. So how do you feel about how do you feel about my interviewing you a little bit and talking about what a pushy broad you are? What do you think about that?
Well, I'm excited about it. This is something in my life that I'm looking at and really asking myself many, many questions about right now. So I think your timing is perfect.
Well, I think you co-host with so many people, and you give everybody else the opportunity to shine and to bring out their own particular talent. But I think it's really important for our listeners to know, because some of us have just joined you and some of us have been over the years with you, but how many people actually know what a pushy broad you are? So let me ask those beginning questions.
Sure.
Let listeners know, how long ago did you start Transformation Talk Radio, and what was your initial dream to do that?
Well, this is Transformation Talk Radio is the network, and the Transformation Network is an idea that came to me, I would say about 2009, a little bit sooner. I was helping somebody else launch their network. And so as I was helping him launch his network, the idea really came to me. Now, if it wasn't for this guy writing a bad check and the station owner at the time calling me and saying, you better be able to cover this $2,200 check a month and start your own network, that was the motivation for me to start Transformation Talk Radio about 10 years ago, right? But before that, it was, what was I going to do to take this idea I had out into the world? And I'm going back to 2002, right? Where I was at my lowest of lows. I had just finished school and I pretty much had the world at my fingertips. And I was too depressed after studying corporations and the treatment of employees and broken promises for 10 years. I couldn't do it. And one day I was sitting on the couch and out of my mouth came, oh my gosh, I feel so crusted over. And hence crust busting was born. And the first show wasn't the Dr. Pat show. It was called Crust Busting Your Way to an Awesome Life. And that got started through dialing a wrong phone number. And so for me, I've had a lot of help from the universe, right? To like point me, show me the way. And then of course I had to connect the dots. But I had a passion to bring a message to the world before I had a show. It really did.
Well, it starts with that initial dream, that initial idea, but a woman who pushes for more has the guts to follow through on that dream. Follow through on an idea. So along the way, what's one thing, I mean, how many people do you think inspired you? And could you tell me who those people were that helped push you along?
That helped me?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I interviewed Gloria Steinem once and early in my career, and I wanted to acknowledge her work in helping me while I was in corporate America, while I was in HR. And, I got to sit across the table from her, and many young women today don't know who Gloria Steinem is. And, every once in a while you'll see a spot interview of her. But I've had so many people in my life, I can't even begin to tell you. But I will say this, I have a best friend who happens to be my producer, who I met in 1972. And when I turned to her and said, I'm going to get a PhD, and it was about 1973 I did that. And honestly, didn't have any sense of anything, but I had an idea. I wanted it because I delivered mail to all these people that had PhD, like at the end of their names. And they were the funnest people. These were the Bell Labs people. This was the guy that, discovered the Big Bang, Arno Penzias. And every Friday I'd go have bagels with him. So I thought, PhD, fun, PhD, ping pong, PhD, juggling. So I turned to Linda and I said, I'm going to get a PhD. And so Linda looked at me very nicely and said, of course you will. Now, that didn't happen for a lot of years later, but there has always been an angel in my life. I could tell you stories about people that risked their career to support me going back to school. Brian McGorry was one of my bosses, and he tried to get me to go to school at night. And I was a clerk. I started in the mailroom, and I was a clerk. And Brian would say to me, look, you got to go to school. You want to keep advancing. And I'm thinking, I just want to go to New York and party. I'm not really thinking like school, Brian. And so my mind was like, I can't think about going to school. That's 8 o'clock that I start my class. Then I got to go 8 o'clock, go to school. I said, Brian, how am I doing that? He said, why didn't you go earlier? I said, because the telephone company doesn't allow clerks, I was a clerk, to leave 15 minutes early. You know what he did? Brian McGorry, you know what he did? And this is an up and coming supervisor, right?
Right.
Up and coming, he was back then. What did we look at when we looked at men that were on fast track? This is a fast track guy. And he said, you're going to leave. I'm going to pay for your tuition. You're going to leave 15 minutes early so you can get to Fairleigh Dickinson. And I said, okay. Oh my gosh. I'm in a room with 50 other people, mostly women, that watched me, a clerk, walk out 15 minutes early to go to school. If you don't think that you know what hit the fan, forget it. It did. And Brian was called in. And all I know, what happened was, and I asked him about it years later, Brian said to all of them, the entire vice presidential team at Bell Labs, said to them, this is old and outdated. People, mostly women, are affected by this. You need to change your policy. And Bell Labs changed its entire policy to let clerks, right? Non-management, but we were called clerks, leave. Now, when you see something like that in your life, and this becomes a mentor, albeit a man, a mentor, then you as a woman remember those things and it carries with you. And I have had, for every Brian McGorry, I have had a Mary Louise Smith. Mary Louise Smith became my mentor. She was tough as nails. You never walked in her room and said, I have a problem, without her saying, what part of the problem are you? But I learned about empowerment from this woman. I learned about watching an African American woman in a position run the place and teach me how to stand in my power. And you can't write enough stories about people like that. And so for me, and by the way, she taught me how to break every rule in the book to help people move forward and enhance what they're doing. These are the people. When I think about women that push for more, I think about the Mary Louise Smiths of the world. And again, a rule breaker. We were supposed to fire our entire graphics. This was my line job, to manage graphics people. You don't manage graphics people, they are creative. And so we automated them, and we kept this a secret for 8 months. We kept a secret, completely automating the entire graphics organization in the phone company, moving people out that weren't performing, and taking revenue that was at a minus 3 point something million to a 1 year revenue accomplishment of 2 million inside services. But what do you learn from people like that? What do you learn from a Mary Louise Smith? You learn how to take risks, you learn how to present your case, and you learn how to push for more.
Yes.
And I hope we're able to do that with people today. So there's so many people. I could spend the entire hour talking about these folks.
Your influences, but certainly too, on top of that, like you said, it's understanding the lesson. It's saying that I understand the positive reference in my life, people like Brian and people like Mary Louise. And maybe in the beginning, it took someone like Brian, a male, to be heard, because females were not heard, certainly not back in 1973. I know, because I was right there with you, girlfriend. Okay. I know. So women were not heard at all. But maybe it took a man to have the fortitude and to have the foresight to say, this is what has to be done. These are the changes that have to be made. And then after that, for women to follow suit, to turn around and say, yes, this is what I need.
Well, I should mention that he didn't get to do that without going to his boss, Helen DeGanzik, to begin with, to make sure that happened. And so isn't that what we're talking about today? Man, woman, does it matter? It does matter at some level. What matters is that we understand each other well enough to create opportunities that doesn't favor one over the other because of the color of your skin, or because whether you're a man or female, whether you're gay or straight. None of that should matter, whether you're Latino or not. This is about really breaking down the barriers of that. And it's taken a lot of push to even get to a conversation today about it.
And now we're at the pinnacle of that, because we are at a pivotal moment in our life.
Yeah.
We have been forced by the alignment of the planets, by the politics, by the worldview, by the virus. Everything is pushing us to the moment where we have to take a definitive stand in order to move our planet into a different direction, because otherwise we will perish. There are some very difficult things that are happening here, and we must push for action in every sense of the word. And having somebody like yourself, which is an example of how you created over the past 15 years, a positive situation that really sends positive energy out to the whole world, and something that you had to break through, because 15 years ago, women were not exactly network executives. So tell us a little bit about how that transformed and who you had to go up against in order to make this thing happen.
I have to tell you this, that what I love about my journey is ignorance. I must say this about me, and this is what you'll know if you've ever heard me tell many of the different stories of my life. Ignorance has saved my life. And there's a vast difference between ignorance and stupidity. They're not the same.
Okay.
I just want to tell everybody about that for a minute. Ignorance is when you don't know. Now, that doesn't mean you don't learn about something, but you just don't know. So, for example, I didn't know how to fill out an application for graduate school, let alone know where to send it or take GRE exams. And that level of not knowing at the intellect mind level did not negate the knowing in my heart. And for me, I think it's my greatest attribute. I think that most of my life, it has been my intuition, or what do you want to call it, gut, that has allowed me to make some decisions for the most part that would get me from where I was to where I wanted to go. Not all of them, but it never got in the way of me not thinking that I didn't have a shot at something, right? And I got that from my stepmom. That I absolutely know that my stepmom, Doris, was the queen of perseverance. She ruled perseverance and she taught us kids, me in particular. She didn't let me get away with anything. And I've shared the pogo stick story with Benny, right? But I got away with no aspect of laziness with her, no aspect of I can't, no aspect of I won't. And I'm telling you, when Doris teaches you about that, and she could because she knew about it. Why? She had her first child at 12 and her second child at 13. If you don't know that woman, if you don't think that that woman knew something about perseverance to raise two kids at that age, wow.
That's unbelievable.
So, yeah.
You had a strong woman behind you. And basically what you're saying is if you have a dream that you want to manifest and you want to push for it, it doesn't matter whether you know it or at the moment. It doesn't matter whether you train for it. It doesn't matter whether you have the knowledge to achieve it. You just have to have the dream and have the persistence to make that happen. And if that means learning new things, if that means going for a PhD, if that means breaking new ground, being willful enough and pushy enough to get something done to manifest your dreams.
You got to really want it, Ellen. You have to really want it. When I work with hosts and co-hosts and people that want to launch their own show, and I work with them personally, you know, it's very clear to me. I spend a lot of time with people making sure they really want this, you know, that this is something that they are going to stand on taking their message out into the world, whether you're Amira and you know you are part of the Atlantean group or you are something else. You know, the most of the folks that I work with really want this. They want some vision of being out in the world, and they don't have to know how to get there. And that's why for the network, we don't just sell airtime here. You know, you can go to other networks for that. We don't just do that. We're invested in helping people realize their dream because I've had so many people being invested in me realizing my dream.
Exactly. It's truly a transformative experience. There is no question. So you decided to break into the world of radio because this is something you wanted after your PhD and you wanted to move forward here. What made you think that this was a good medium to get your message across?
I had no idea. I mean, I didn't know what it was. I dialed the wrong phone number and I'm like you, I'm from New York, right? So if you live on the East Coast and you dial the wrong phone number, you are like hanging up. Like all you have to hear is, oh, you got the wrong number. Boom, you're gone, right? But I had moved to Seattle, right? I moved to Seattle. I didn't hang up. There was something that caused me to entertain this. And I was looking for a man named, right? I was looking for a man named Tracy. And I call in and they're like, blah, 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 blah. I said, I'm looking for Tracy. Nobody here by Tracy. I said, are you sure? I've got this 800 number and it said to call Tracy. They said, oh, well, we are an internet broadcast network. I said, internet broadcast network. This is 2003. Come on. Are you serious? Come on. And they said, well, why don't you talk to Tacy? Then I thought, this is when that show Punked was out there, that Ashton Kutcher Punked show. I thought my friends are punking me. And I'm like, I'm going to play with it. Well, within 10 minutes, I had talked to Tacy Trump, by the way. I bought my first hour of airtime at a lot of money for digital radio. We all are at a choice point in our world. We're all at a place where we get to decide how we want to live our lives. And this hasn't been, I mean, it's great for me to show up today and be talking about what my journey was like, you know, But to be honest with you, this doesn't come without a lot of ups and a lot of downs,
Now,
a lot of potholes and a lot of paved roads.
so a couple
This
of
for me is not one of, yeah, I mean, this is not a journey where I woke up one day and, here I was. And 6 months after picking up on the show and then joining KKNW, I got very, very sick for a lot of years. And so, I mean, what do you learn from a mom that commits suicide when you're 6? You're homeless at 17 and you're arrested at 19 for something you didn't do. What do you learn from all of that? And even with all of that, a woman, Doris Stoner, at Bell Labs, gives me a job and says to me, I don't know why I'm giving you this job. You're out 68 days in your senior year of high school. This is a mailroom job at Bell Labs, and you're going to have to get super secure security clearance. And Doris Owner sat across the table from me and looked at me and said, I don't know why I'm going to give you this job, but there's something about you. Something about you. Now, talk about women that are willing to push for more. And she gave me that $61 a week job. And then when I got promoted after 7 months, basically was in the mailroom longer than anybody. And then I got promoted to a library job. I was in the library 2 weeks and I went storming into Doris Stoner's room. And I said, I can't work in the library. I hate this job. Nobody talks. I should have known there was something about me. But here's what I want to say. And then she found me a job in payroll, and I was in payroll for a long time. But I watched this kid on TV, Ellen, the other night, 13-year-old kid stutter. And I just bawled my eyes out because I stuttered at 13. And somebody interviewed me and asked me, how did I stop stuttering? Right? And you heard Joe Biden talk about that. But they asked me, how did you stop? And I said, all I remember is I started to play an instrument. I started to read music. I don't know the connection between playing the viola, reading music, and stopping. But we have in this country one of the greatest freedoms of all, and that is our freedom to speak. And that's our freedom to decide. We're not Viktor Frankl in a concentration camp. And I think sometimes I have to be reminded that if I'm given an opportunity to help other people and I don't take that opportunity, I don't think that my life gets to be as full and rich as it is today. But pushing is something you better learn. It's a learning thing.
Exactly. It certainly is a learning thing. So anybody that is like us right now and wants to break into this kind of profession and maybe do something in the media or do follow in your footsteps, what is one of the greatest pieces of advice you could give to someone that wanted to work in radio or wanted to work in the media right now?
I think that right now, the world we live in, and clearly with us, with our new technology being finished, this is an opportunity for many people and any people. I think you have to be knowledge about it. I think when you make this decision, I didn't know what I didn't know. I mean, for years, I had no idea. All I kept doing is paying thousands of dollars for airtime, just kept paying it. But one of the things people should realize is that anything you do that you're passionate about, I think 10% is inspiration and 90% is perspiration. And I think that's something you should be aware of. Ellen, you and I are showing up here today. Once upon a time, it used to be just me. Back in 09 and 10, used to be me and Oliver building technology that we didn't know anything about and building it because I didn't know anything about radio. So I built something from a technological perspective that doesn't really exist in radio. It was never about radio. So what I say to people that wants to do this, know your heart, decide what level you want to participate, and then decide, do you want to do it all yourself? Because you could do it yourself, but most people are too busy. But you need to look at what you want to do and how you want to do it. And then please just do it. Just do it.
Especially when you're a woman like Dr. Pat, who is a woman who pushes for more. And for those of you that don't know, you should know that Talk Radio to Thrive By is the #1 positive talk show in Seattle, 9 years running. The show reaches millions of people each year and is broadcast over 300 AM, FM digital networks across the globe and in 142 countries. So that certainly is Pushy Broad and a woman who pushes for more, because without you, Dr. Pat, none of this would be possible, including my being able to roll out a show that I'm extremely proud of and want every woman to be a part of. I want you to feel that you are powerful and unafraid and self-aware and hardworking. Everything that has to do with the word push from a point of view that makes it exciting for you. So I want to do something special on this program today. I want you to go to pushybroadfromthebronx.com and I want you to write me. Go to ellen@pushybroadfromthebronx.com and tell me what your story is all about. Just like Dr. Pat, how are you a woman who pushes for more? Or maybe you are a young adult or an adolescent or a teenager that has a good story about how you are pushing for more in your life, how you are helping your community, how you are breaking through new ground, and the most exciting and inspiring stories I'm going to interview on the air on my show.
Yeah. I want to say one thing too. And this is something I want to mention to everybody. I didn't do this alone. And I just want to be clear about this. I didn't do this alone. All along the way, I've had network executives and network owners, and this station, KKNW AM 1150. Benny and I have been together since 2004, I think. And that's a long time to be with a producer that gets you, right? It is getting close to the longest relationship I've ever had. But that doesn't come without bumps in the roads, up and downs. He took my goldfish. I gave it to him. But also the program directors at the network, Eric Creamer, John Schwartz when he was here. And this is just one of my network. That original network I was on, Tacey Trump was an advocate. She talked and helped me do things I couldn't do. I interviewed football players. I mean, these are other people that are on your team. And so I want to say this because it will go unnoticed. Sean, our buddy Sean Eisen in Australia, way back, somehow said to me, "Do you want your show here in Australia?" And to this day, this is like, I don't know how, to this day, Sean picks up 9 hours from this every week and plays it on over 45 channels, AM, FM in Australia. So you have to build collaborative, respectful relationships, Ellen, because it doesn't matter how much you push for more. What matters is how you push for more. And that to me that has been my greatest challenge and lesson.
Exactly right. The women that push for more do not knock things down. In our path, we try to build things up and work in the community. And that's exactly what all of my shows have been about. Recovery Recharged, in building people, and also in Everybody Needs a Little Push in a good way. The work that I do as an empowerment coach and a recovery coach, it is not about pushing things out of the way. It is about making things happen and bringing a community of people together so that you can be respected and you can get things done in a big way. It's all about that community. You're absolutely right. It's no question. So, Dr. Pat, do you identify as a pushy broad and a woman who pushes for more?
Yeah, there's no question about it. And you could ask anybody on my team, the calls that will make Linda and Jessica cringe, right? Or the text messages when I say, "Oh my gosh, I've got a great idea," right? Because they know what's coming, right? And they know that there is an idea coming that's going to cause us either to change direction, increase our technology, rework something, or do something brand new. And because of that, the entire team here has the possibility to do that. But I will say this about me. I will say this about me because Amy Klobuchar, took a lot of grief back when she was running. And why did she take grief? Because out somewhere from somebody, there was a comment about how tough she is to her staff.
I remember that.
Right? I'm tough. I'm tough.
Tough and
push. But I won't give up on you.
Exactly.
And let me just be clear about what I mean by tough. I have high standards for things because all of you that work with us have high standards. So sometimes it may seem like, wow, are you really picking on that thing that didn't get done or that show that didn't get played right? Yeah, I am. And so sometimes when you are a woman and you have these high standards or whatever we want to call them, as a woman, you get called a lot of things. But flip over to pretty much any man that has those same standards. Man, you talk about him, you say, wow, my boss, wow, he's really tough, but he's fair. We don't say that about women. And I think we need to really look at tough but fair or pushy, tough, nasty, whatever you want to call it.
Changing the definition of what a pushy broad is to make it a positive force.
Yeah.
And to understand that we are on equal footing. Again.
And you can be tough and respectful at the same time. I don't know, like, who created those as two separate things.
Exactly.
The worst thing that's ever happened to me in my career, the very worst, has been when a boss hasn't given me feedback, hasn't told me to my face what he or she thought I needed to change. That usually has ended up in some epic fail on my part.
Well, certainly you've come to light in a great way, and you've spent the last, 15 years now developing a station. What are your plans for the future, Dr. Pat? What are the plans for the future of your network?
I'll give you my 17-second flip on it. We have brand new technology that's coming out. It's all rewritten. We're going to have new websites coming out over the next 90 days. They're all going to be done. A backdrop for new technology, a new podcasting channel, which will have memberships. And then we're creating podcasting different than podcasting is done in the world today. We're actually going to model our podcasting after our network. So those are just a few. AI for the Soul, we're going to be crowdfunding for that. And then for me personally, I want to get out more. I want to speak more. I want to do more about, helping other women in the world. And that's the short version. But I don't do any of this without the great team of people that want to running this show and that do the many things for us. It just doesn't happen. Yeah, I don't get to be without them at all.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ellen, for today.
Allowing us to have this interview today. Women Who Push for More, starting Wednesdays in September, every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern. Join us for inspiring interviews. Dr. Pat, as always, thank you so much for being who you are.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Benny, for pushing all the right buttons. Thank you. I think it's Dave and Olivia. Dave's one of our new producers. And I want to thank all of you out there for plugging into us for as long as you have. We promise to bring you much more. And yeah, every once in a while you get a caller, and Benny's all over that. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Benny. Thank you to our listeners, for the most part, the best listeners of the planet. Ellen, thank you so much. Let's push some more.
Always my pleasure.
See you next time, everybody.